So today we're going to take our knowledge that we did last week, our sketches. You practiced doing how many cacti? Three, and then 2 succulents. So altogether you did 5. You do not have to use all of them, but just use some of the ones that you really want to have on your picture. To make your picture look more interesting, we are going to use some overlapping instead of just putting everything side by side. I do want some smaller ones in the front called the foreground. I don't know what you're doing. You need to stop. Thank you. Okay, so I printed your pots from last week. I had to stretch them so that the cacti would actually fit inside your pot. So when you're cutting, make sure you cut right on the edge. I'm not going to reprint these, so just do your best whenever you're cutting these out. Remember that each hand has a job. Your non-cutting hand is your turning hand. Your scissors just do the chopping, and you can get into any place if you remember that rule whenever you're cutting. If you're turning with your scissors, you end up having straight, kind of jagged edges. So turn with your turning hand, cut with your cutting hand. I'm going to get that piece off so it's out of my way. Now we do not need this inside oval. Why?
Because there's stuff in.
Because there's stuff coming out of the pot, correct? So if your cacti is coming from here, you don't need this inside pot because you're not going to see it. So I'm just going to, right now, just cut that piece off. I'm going to go right inside that top line. I just told you we didn't need to see the inside of the pot because we have things coming out of the pot. So you don't need to see that inside area. Now I put glue plates at your table because we tend to use too much glue whenever we're gluing. So we're going to use the glue brushes. Glue stick is not strong enough, so that's why we're using liquid glue. You're going to get a large paper. Now, if we're doing saguaro, we know that they get pretty tall, correct? So if I put my picture this way, are you going to be able to fit your saguaro in there? No. So let's have this. This is called landscape or horizontal. This is portrait, where it's going straight up and down. And then we're going to glue this somewhere down towards the bottom so that we have plenty of room up above to draw our cacti. Let's see. When you're gluing, don't glue on your big paper. If you need a messy board to put underneath, you can. But I just glue it so it's at least a 1/4 inch from the edge with liquid glue. So take a dip, wipe it on the lip so you're not spreading it all over the table. That's what I tell kindergartners. It works for y'all too. Okay. And then that's gonna go, I wouldn't put it all the way at the bottom edge, but leave it up a little bit. Now we're going to need to have a line to make this look like it's sitting either on a table or it's sitting on the floor. So somewhere in here, I don't do it right at the bottom edge because I want this to look like it's actually sitting on the floor. So somewhere in there, I'm going to sketch in a floor line. And we'll trace that with Sharpie once we're done. So today we're basically drawing and tracing with Sharpie, and I want to see a variety of different lines. Does that mean all the same or different?
Different.
Variety in art means different. It's one of the elements of art. Actually, it's a principle of art. So unity is all the same, and variety means different. So I'm going to look at my different sketches that I did last week, or you can look at the ones from the paper, either one. So if you're going to do a small one, don't draw really tiny like this because we're going to be using oil pastel. You want to draw things bigger, at least the size of your fist, if not more. So if I'm drawing this Calancho flapjack, I want to draw that a lot bigger so that I'm filling up my space. And then behind that, I can put something larger like a cacti. So I'm going to start right by the edge. Let's say I'm going to do that fish barrel cactus. So I'm going to sketch up. Well, you're wanting to fill your space. Or this could be the saguaro if I want. I'm going to make it kind of like that lines where it goes down. So I'm putting something in front of something else, and then over here maybe I want to do I'm going to have this one in front. Well, it's a aloe vera. Aloe vera is not tiny. Actual ones are larger. They have really little ones or smaller ones, and they have larger ones. The one on my porch is really big. So I'm just trying to fill in that bottom space, and then I'm drawing what's behind it next. So let's say I want to do the paddle cactus or the prickly pear. You don't have to do the saguaro just because. I'm just trying to fill in some of that empty space so that your positive space, which is your drawing, is just as interesting as your empty space called your negative space back behind it. So once you don't have to draw all the little thorns and things, the stickers. You can do that with a Sharpie. So I'm going to start the bigger ones with my thicker chisel tip Sharpie. That's going to help when we're doing the oil pastel part to keep the oil pastel inside of your lines. If you do it with a thinner Sharpie, it tends to look a little messier. So I would start it with something thicker and then go back in for the variety part. And the little one you don't have to do with this one. You can do a regular fine tip Sharpie. I would not use a pen tip Sharpie unless you're just like doing needles or something. So on this one I can go back in and let's see, I got some little sticker things. Because if I try to do everything with this one, it's not really going to look like the needles. And then this one, I'm going to do a little bit thinner instead of that thick one. Any questions on what we're doing today? Okay, so we're drawing and tracing with Sharpie. Does this one have needles? No, the succulents do not. Now the aloe vera, if you've ever seen it along the edges, it's kind of bumpy right along the edge. What is your question? You didn't have a question. So I'm just going in and adding that bumpiness to it. You're outlining, don't color in with Sharpie obviously, because we're going to be using oil pastel. Next week we're going to use oil pastel. I'm hoping my new ones come in by next week. Okay, so we're going to be blending, doing gradation from one color to another. That's what that's called, gradation. Or value, where you do darks, mediums, and lights. Okay, and then the blending part is with baby oil. This part's colored with oil pastel. This is smoothed out with baby oil, and it makes it look more like paint, oil paint. Okay?
Why is this so good?
Yours are going to be good too. The ones on my example are actual 4th graders from 2 years ago.
What?
So the ones here I'm going to show you.